Excuse me. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Machakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations, much love and respect to you, Akim, out there pushing this word out in truth and sincerity. It's your brother Chai and Apash coming at you with another lesson. And this lesson is going to be entitled America Under Siege, featuring Donald J. Trump. America Under Siege, featuring Donald J. Trump. And the Spirit got on me to, do a lesson based upon this documentary, which, I learned of this documentary from the apostles and elders. And this came to mind with everything that's going on in Washington, D.C. and the other 19 states in Babylon. Okay. So ultimately, these are their plans. All right. This is Linda Thompson, and these are their plans that they're setting up to do. And this is why they're doing what they're doing now, because it's all a orchestrated plan to bring a siege upon Babylon the Great and upon you Israelites. We told you Jacob's trouble was coming. You didn't want to hear us. You wanted to scoff. You wanted to ignore. You wanted to fan the hand, make jokes, right? Give us scowls and dirty looks. But when this comes to pass, you that have heard the prophets, you're going to think about the prophets and what you were told, and think upon Yahweh Bahashab Yahweh Shai, because that's the name that we constantly push. Okay, those are the names we constantly push. The name of Yahweh, which is the Heavenly Father, and the name of his son Yahweh Shai, who has given us these revelations and these understandings. Okay, so I'm going to play some of this video, and then I'm going to, of course, get some scriptures.
And resign themselves to the fact that the humiliation and injury they suffered at the hands of the government would simply go unpunished. I'll explain who I am, why I made this tape, and why you need to see it. My name is Linda Thompson. I'm chairman of the American Justice Federation. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and when I was in the Army from 1974 to 1978, I worked first in the Military History Detachment, and then for the Commanding General of Allied Forces Central Europe at NATO headquarters. In that capacity, I revised the NATO War Plans manuals. I also served in the Army Reserve afterwards as a training assistant until 1985. During that time, I was a secretary, a homemaker, and mother of 3 boys. I'm an attorney. I have a doctorate in law and a few other degrees of relative insignificance. I'm married to Al, who is a man of the highest character, other than his mom and dad, I've ever had the honor to know. We have 3 sons, and we live in a nice, fairly ordinary home outside of Indianapolis. Al is the president of American Justice Federation, an engineer in charge of our AEN radio and computer news networks. As an attorney...
And it's important for you to hear the accolades, so to speak, because you know that how she can get this information, being high level in the military, being a part of, NATO, and these different things, that gives her insight to certain things that go on, okay?
I took a special interest in cases where government agents abuse their positions of trust. In fact, the main reason I went to law school was because I wanted to make a lasting contribution to preserving this great country. I believed then, though I don't now, that I could best do this through the courts. I started American Justice Federation because I had seen so many people who were forced to simply surrender their dignity and resign themselves to the fact that the humiliation and injury they suffered at the hands of the government would simply go unpunished.
Beat my child to death. They beat him to death like a dog. Just like a dog. They beat him to death. They beat up his head.
I believed then, and again I don't now, that if a few people here were to fight back through the courts, the abuse would stop, or at least be slowed down. In 1987, Al and I began a computer bulletin board service, networking it with other computers across the country. In 1991, we decided to focus the efforts of the network on linking people across the country to share information that was not being reported on the national news. I began to realize...
Yeah, because back then, they didn't have the internet. You see, this internet, the internet has exposed Esau Edom on a high level. It's exposed their secret meetings, you know, the things that they do behind closed doors. And that's why, matter of fact, let me get this real quick. The morning to them, right? Which that's the reason why they did it. They thought they feel they made a mistake when it came to creating the internet, because there's too much exposure. This is Job 24:17. It says, "For the morning is to them even as the shadow of death." Okay. Matter of fact, let's go up to verse 24 and 24 and 16. Let's go to Job 24 and 16. It says, "In the dark they dig through houses, which they had marked for themselves in the daytime. They know not the light." Okay, the light represents the truth. "For the morning is to them even as the shadow of death." So the truth to them is as the shadow of death. So truth is the main threat of Esau and his world. Okay, because he has built his society based upon lies. All right. "If one know them, they are in the terrors of the shadow of death." Okay. He is. So the bottom line is that this is why they don't want anyone to know anything about them. This is why they do these things in the secret. And this is why the internet is like a thorn in their side. So they're going to have to stop people's access to the internet and so on and so forth. Because now it got to the point in this short period that the internet was in every household pretty much. You know, as soon as they do something, man, there's 100 and something people making videos about, nah, this is the truth. No, this is a psyop, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And they got the proof, they got the video, they slow it down, they zoom in, you know, they look it up, they show you all the information you need to know to convince you that that this is a psyop or this was a F flag or so on and so forth. So the things that they used to be able to do in the dark easily without any pushback, and even the pushback they can just call them quacks, and it'll be swept under the rug. You don't want to be called a quack, right? So those things will be swept under the rug, right? But no, gone are the days when they can do that, you know. This is Psalms 64 in verse 2. It says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not." But now their secrets are being revealed. Okay. On a high level. So anyway, so let's play this.
That the media was intentionally not covering these stories, and I soon realized that cases where people were savagely beaten, shot, or killed by federal law enforcement and local police were not isolated events. We just weren't being told about them. In Idaho, in August 1992, government agents killed Randy Weaver's only son, 14-year-old Sammy Weaver, and Randy's wife, Vicki. An FBI sniper from the FBI hostage response team in Washington, D.C., appropriately called the HRT, or HURT team, blew the side of Vicki Weaver's head off as she stood holding her 10-month-old daughter, Elishaba, in her arms in the doorway of her own home. The media was kept 2 miles away as all this was going on. U.S. Marshals had set Weaver up, trying to put pressure on him to become an informant for them. 6 U.S. Marshals had traveled all the way from Boston to Idaho and kept Weaver and his family under surveillance, spying on them with cameras for 18 months.
So the bottom line is they blew a woman's top off along with her son, right? And that didn't even make it to the news because the news was told to stay back. Now that couldn't happen today, right? You got people with cell phones, you got people with, you know, cameras and, you know, things, and people would be asking questions. Okay. And news would be forced to talk about it, but well, not necessarily forced to talk about, but even if the news doesn't talk about it, let's say the news ignores it, the people still have the internet, you got the TikTok, you got all these different things. So it's not the same as back then. Back then they could do this and get away with it. They were doing it like nothing, putting people to death. Okay, the whistleblowers and whatnot, putting them straight to death right away. A lot of these people that are still breathing now, you know, they if it was back then, they would have no problem taking them out in any way they felt fit, because you know, the internet wasn't invented, you know. So let's continue.
Filming their every move. Finally, becoming bored, these U.S. Marshals provoked a confrontation by throwing rocks at the house to attract the Weavers' dogs. Kevin Harris and Sammy Weaver, believing they were chasing the Weavers' dog Yeller on the scent of a deer, ran out into a roadway and were confronted by a gunman in camouflage fatigues. The gunman shot the dog. Agents hiding in the woods began firing, hitting their own agent and killing Sammy. As Randy went to check on Sammy's body in the shed later, a sniper fired on him. His wife ran to the doorway of their home holding their baby, calling, "What's happened? What's wrong?" As the sniper's bullet tore off the side of her face, she slumped to her knees and bent over dead in the doorway, shielding her baby even in her death. The governor of Idaho declared martial law, all for one man who'd never bothered anyone. An entire road was built from the highway up the mountain to Weaver's home so that tanks and over 1,000 government agents dressed in full military battle gear could be assembled around Weaver's house. ATF agents with machine guns were posted in the roadways to keep the neighbors back. This was in Idaho, in the United States of America, my country, in 1992. I vowed then that I would personally make it my responsibility to expose the truth to America. On February 28, 1993, the federal government attacked the Branch Davidians in Waco. In the course of investigating our government's actions in Waco, Texas in 1993, I came across the shocking, horrifying proof that our government intentionally murdered its own agents and the people at Mount Carmel in Waco, Texas. Over the next year, I gathered...
So what I want to do is I want to actually go down to to like around the 20, because it's going to speak about the unmarked helicopters, which, you know, which it proved in this video that there was a whole bunch of unmarked helicopters, but then the government would call people quacks who said that, you know, tell them they're crazy, you know, tell the public they're crazy, you know, conspiracy theorists and so on and so forth. But, you know, the proof was there, you know, in the video. So anyways, let's go about here.
At the same building where FBI headquarters was located and where black helicopters were parked during the Waco siege, Chrysler Technologies paints these very same C-5As. Some are painted a camouflage color, some plain gray.
See, they can't play that game about, those helicopters don't exist. People got the internet now, you know?
Some with a red, green, and gray color scheme, similar to the Arizona National Guard, and some with the red and green FEMA colors. There's obviously a connection between private defense contractors, federal law enforcement, and military special operations groups, which was well established during the siege in Waco and becomes more clear as we see how these groups play a role in the New World Order. In this 1993 Army Field Manual 100-20, Special Operations Forces are particularly well suited to domestic support missions. Domestic means they are to be used on us here in the United States. They are under the U.S. Special Operations and Special Operations Integration Command. They also have a Civil Affairs sister unit at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Civil Affairs units are propaganda units. Waco.
Yeah, because they have to push out, you know, they have to make it seem like a reasonable act. Like even with this whole, the troops in D.C. and whatnot, they got an excuse. Right, through the propaganda machine, they're able to say, "Oh, this is about the crime in D.C., the crime in Chicago, and these different black areas. We got to step in. People are begging for me to step in. African American ladies, beautiful, beautiful ladies. They're telling me about, you know, we need to come to Chicago. We need to come here. We need to come there. This is all that propaganda, okay? While they're moving in with the military and getting ready to put a full blown to fully siege your areas, you know, and come down on the people. That's what's getting ready to happen, man. So, you know, just look for a F flag or one of them things to pop off to give them the excuse to go berserk, you know.
was one such domestic support operation involving local and federal law enforcement and military, as shown in the ATF final report. On pages 73 and 78, you can see that the raid was planned by Special Forces from Fort Bragg. The main ATF planner, Bill Buford, was former Special Forces. The raid on Waco was conducted as a military assault, and in our Waco tapes you will plainly see that military Special Forces were in Waco the day Mount Carmel was burned down. Last, the two evaluators, Rod Pascal and Wayne Ishimoto, were both retired Delta Force commanders.
See, the things that you're seeing now get ready to pop off. These are things that have been prepared for decades. Okay? These are things that have been being prepared. You know? So this was that sword being sharpened. This is Ezekiel 21:9. It says, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. Esau's about to come down with a sore slaughter. Okay, he's about to get the people accustomed to death. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. Okay, so it's sharpened to the point where it's glittering, meaning that it's going to be very effective when they come down. When they come down, it's going that sword is going to be very effective. Okay. And he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. The sword is sharpened and is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. Who is the slayer? Esau, Edom. All right, let's go to Revelation 6. In verse 4, it says, and there went out another horse that was red, that represents the Edomite power structure. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And he's getting ready to use that sword. Okay. They got the military going to these different cities because he's getting ready to use that sword. They're not being put there for show. That's not for the military being put into those cities, DC, Chicago, wherever else they're going to go, is not for show. There's a reason that's happening. There's a bigger plan at hand. Okay? They're getting ready to come down on you with that tyranny, that draconian law. You understand? And Trump is that guy. Trump is that guy. The Spirit has us saying it. Trump is that dude. Okay? Now, I remember before we didn't even know if he was going to run at that time. I know I said that, I even did a video on it, that if Trump gets back into office, he will be the biggest tyrant that these people have seen. Okay? He will be the biggest tyrant that these people have seen. And this is what's getting ready to come. This is what's happening. They're going to do away with your Constitution. They need an excuse, and they're going to get the excuse. They got all kind of people ready to do certain acts to give them the excuse to label you as homegrown terrorists, man. You best believe it, man. You best believe it.
Remember, Delta Force is another name for Task Force 160. Here we see another example of training for a domestic support operation, as a military unit on maneuvers at Fort Polk, Louisiana, is trained in house-to-house search and seizures and forcible entry, as reported in Soldiers magazine. Fort Polk, Louisiana is now a joint UN training center, and even the U.S. Marshal Service in Pineville is training marshals to be employed all over the world. This is the look of our future law enforcement, as UN troops from all countries practice house-to-house searches and seizures on us. Sound paranoid? Take a look at this National Institute of Justice bulletin that speaks of a multi-jurisdictional task force unit and blatantly brags that asset seizures ensures the financial viability of these task forces.
What does that mean? Let's stop it right here. It says asset seizures, right? Offenders' forfeiture of assets seized in drug arrest has benefits for multi-jurisdictional task force. And don't worry about the drug. Just listen to the rest. Don't worry about the drug part. Okay, has benefits for multi-jurisdictional task force, both as a practical enforcement tactic and as a means of ensuring the financial viability of the task force. Meaning what? Meaning that they're going to be taking your stuff that you have, your whatever you have. You got a generator, you got a computer, whatever you have, water, food. They're going to be stealing that from the people in order to keep this task force going. So the government doesn't have to keep giving the task force things. They're going to have the right, the go ahead, the green light to take it from the people that they call offenders. This is what's coming. And where do you find that? You find that in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. Okay, we're going to go down to the 69th verse. It says, and they that consent, matter of fact, let's go down to the 67th verse. It says, behold, verse 68, Salakia. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. See, that's part of the great multitude. Those task force. Those task force. All right. And they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. See, the main target is the elect in these times, but other people are going to get destroyed too. You other Israelites, even these Edomites and these other nations, they're going to get destroyed. It says, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods, you see? And according to that, they have the right to forfeit, to take their goods, to seize your goods in order to keep themselves going. So they can just steal your things if you're labeled as a quote unquote offender. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen. By that time, the elect is going to be clear. Okay. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. All right. And that's all part of the fire, man. You know, so I thought this was very interesting, you know, because guess what? That's in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. They're going to take the things, they're going to kick you out of your house and bring you to wherever camp they're going to bring you to or whatever. And they're going to have the right to steal everything that you have legally. Okay. Basically, they could do whatever in that time. You know, they're going to have carte blanche in that time. You know.
Examine newspaper articles and you'll see plenty of proof of these multi-jurisdictional task forces breaking into homes without warrants, as they did in Puerto Rico last year, all supposedly in the name of the war on drugs. These multi-jurisdictional task forces comprised of state and federal law enforcement.
And there's going to be other reasons. It's not going to be about drugs. That's why I said don't worry about drugs. They got other, you know, if they have one of those major events, right, that they orchestrate one of the major events. That's going to trump the drugs. That's going to be more serious than the drugs. And they're going to be able to do all these things. All right.
And military units rousted 500 people from their homes and only made 5 arrests. In 1990.
Right. So that shows. They took 500 people from their homes and made 5 arrests. That means that they could take away everyone's rights for a few bad apples, so to speak. So if they have an event that happens, they can label all of you potential domestic terrorists and take away all your rights. This is what Esau's a crafty. This is the devil, man. We told you this is the devil. Okay. This is Revelations 12:12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. His time is short. He's going to come down. He's going to come down hard on you people, man, especially you Israelites. This is the time of Jacob's trouble. This is Revelations 12:17. It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman. That represents this Edomite power structure. Okay. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach. See why it's going to be so dangerous for the men of the Lord? Because they're coming for the men of the Lord. This is who their target is, man. All of this stuff you're hearing, the main focus is the elect. Okay? They understand the elect is coming through Yahweh Shai is going to rule the earth and take over the planet. They understand that, so they're going to come down with that harsh. They're trying to make war against, not against just the elect, but against the Most High Himself, against the Most High Yahweh Shai. That's who they're coming to make war against, man. Against the Most High Yahweh Shai. Real talk, you know. Yeah, man. It ain't no joke, man. It ain't no joke. We tell you these things. It's deadly serious. And Jake don't get it. But Jake's gonna get it when it's too late. This is 2 Ezra 15-14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. It's real close. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So it's going to come to a point where people are not going to regard what the government says. They're going to see the government is not for them, and they're not going to regard what the government is saying. Okay? They're not going to regard it at all. You see? And what DJ Trump is doing with these Gurga troops, not these Gurga troops, the military in DC. Let me see something. Trump military, no, National Guard, I should say National Guard. So 19 states. I think he deployed now. 19 states. Is that correct? Trump deploys. Yep, there we go. National Guard to 19 states. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and listen to this. Propagandist news, Fox.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete...
President Trump's crime crackdown sweeping the nation. After deploying the National Guard to Washington, D.C., now the White House plans to extend its effort across 19 states, all with the goal of curbing crime and supporting immigration enforcement. We'll talk to Republican Congressman Pat Fallon in just a moment. Plus, an illegal alien accused of killing 3 people in a truck accident is due in court today. What he's facing as yet another illegal alien, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was set free. And we're getting new details this morning on the raid of former National Security Advisor John Bolton's home and office. So what was the FBI looking for and why? Welcome to Fox News Live, everybody. I'm Kevin Cork in the nation's capital. We begin at the White House just across the road where the president wrapped up a fairly busy week. I think it's easy to say. Lucas Tomlinson joins.
I thought it was a straight up Edomite, man. These Jakes, they come around Esau, man. They start sounding just like Edomites. But anyway, so the point is, you see what he's doing, man. He's, murder rates 27%, 7.1%, 4.7%. Okay, so this is
off the top 17 context. Last year, the murder rate in D.C. was on par with Chicago and nearly 4 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 6 times higher than New York, as you can see there. And you mentioned off the top 1,700 National Guard members will be sent to 19 states. That's less than 100 per state. The White House says they will be helping DHS with clerical support and other logistical tasks for processing illegal aliens at ICE facilities.
See, and that's just the excuse for this. This is the beginning of the takeover. They always need an excuse, whether it's the war on drugs, the war on this, the war on that, war on crime, war, blah, 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 blah. Okay? They're getting ready to bring in what we just heard about with that documentary, man. Kicking in doors, putting people in camps, all right? Seizing their things, putting them to death, all right, with zero consequences.
Now, speaking of law enforcement, yesterday FBI agents raided the home of Trump's former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, outside Washington, his home in Montgomery County, Maryland. And FBI agents were also seen in his office, the one he rents here in Washington.
Anyways, so that was the point. I don't need to listen anymore. The bottom line is he's getting ready to go through 19 states, and eventually he's gonna that type of activity is gonna be in all states. All right. All right, so Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect, and I'll say shalom.